You gotta love that music. You just
Amazing.
get happy just hearing that tune. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and of course, I'm always keeping it real when it comes to theme parks. And in this video, we're gonna do something I've been like plotting in the back of my mind for quite several weeks. So I'm so glad my That Park Place compatriots, Culture Casino and Dre, aka Vash Sky, are going to EFAP, that iconic Disney cartoon. And of course, that cartoon is known as Steamboat Willie.
Oh
I
yes.
I tell you guys, I have such great memories of this, no matter from when I was a little kid to when I was a teenager to when I was on spring break with friends from college, and we would go to Walt Disney World, and when they had the theater on Main Street, and we would go in there and we would watch Steamboat Willie, and kids would stare at us because we were laughing harder than they were.
Oh, Steamboat Willie is an absolute classic. I mean, people forget just how wild Mickey Mouse was back in the day. Playing with all the animals, especially taking that cat and swinging him over the head and stuff like that. And it's just it's just stuff you necessarily couldn't do today. And frankly, feature some things that Disney wouldn't necessarily be known for, that would be necessarily known for, like in Tex Avery or some of those other cartoon studios. But Disney back in the day treated Mickey Mouse as a very scrappy character, so it's kind of cool that people are kind of rediscovering that now, given the recent news about its emergence into the public domain. Thankfully, though, Lorena, they may not have a theater on Main Street at Walt Disney World, but at Disneyland, the Main Street theater is still intact, and it is playing a Steamboat Willie with audio regularly, so that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
It's amazing.
Very cool. Culture, what about you with memories of Steamboat Willie?
I have the same memory you do, except for in Disneyland. We were talking behind the scenes before we got started, and that was something that I would do traditionally when walking, usually back down Main Street, not usually up, usually unless it's early in the morning, and it was before rope drop. I might indulge if opportunity presented itself, which sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't, sometimes it was roped off itself. But yeah, that was way back in the day when they really did confine you to Main Street and even keep you out of the stores and restaurants at some point. But they figured out that wasn't a good strategy. But I would love to go in there. And if I remember correctly, there were 6 different films you could watch in that theater, and it was extraordinary. And those were the very earliest appearances. Not to mention the fact that. Well, as we'll find out during the course of this adventure, there was a first that came along with Steamboat Willie.
First, they came along with Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Well, I'll say this: the one of the 6 shorts that are featured heavily in the Main Street Theater would be Playing Crazy, and Playing Crazy also dropped into the public domain, as a lot of people have seen, but even that featured some really interesting animation. Technically, it was produced and developed before Steamboat Willie, even though Steamboat Willie was released before Playing Crazy. And so that featured some interesting animation as well, and some hijinks between Mickey and Minnie there, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and of course, the first I'm talking about is the fact that it was the very first cartoon with synchronized sound.
That's right.
And,
that is right.
And it was purely genius how they were able to make that happen. And I'm to this day, I'm so glad they were able to preserve it, because we've lost many things that were first to to history, things that have not been properly preserved.
Yeah, it's really cool how they did that. So, what they did, if people don't know, they animated a kind of metronome on the side of the original work as it played out in front of performers and an orchestra who would perform it in line with the film as it was playing. So all the sounds that you hear were all created essentially on one take because there was no multi-track at that point. It was just like one recording that was synced up via an animated metronome on the side of the frame. That they had to go by.
Wow.
Completely crazy stuff back in what was the 1920s, but it was the way to go.
Well, I tell you, there's so many great firsts and innovations with this cartoon. I love it so much. Mainly because I also love physical comedy, like most kids do, which find that type of comedy really, really funny. And I tell people, Mickey used to be about that life back then. He wasn't well, we'll say within the past decade, not you know, kind of like everything's great, everything's fine, everything's, whatever. It's like, no, some days Mickey had a bad day and he let everybody know he was having,
He was a bit mischievous indeed. I mean, he was a little he could be a rogue. He could be a rogue.
Mm-hmm. He could.
He was enjoyable. And even now, I mean, even with the modern depictions of him, although I'm not a huge fan, I still get a lot of joy out of seeing the shorts that they've produced in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Bash.
Well, I was going to say that's the kind of the cool thing about. I believe you're referring to the Paul Reddish cartoons culture, the most recent ones.
Yeah.
One of the things that is good, I know people have their problems with them, especially considering their animation style. But one of the cool things about those specific shorts is it kind of takes Mickey back to that kind of scrappy, mischievous mouse that he was well known for. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, that he kind of lost as the eras went through, and he became kind of a corporate mascot. So that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, if you go back to Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie and some of these other things, I mean, he's doing all kinds of wild stuff, and it's like, whoa, we don't necessarily, we don't necessarily connect him with some of those attributes, but he definitely is connected for sure. Lorena, you were going to say.
No, I was just gonna say, I had the same reaction as well to the redesign of Mickey with the new cartoons, and I was like, I don't know if I quite like that style. But my nieces and nephews, who are all like under the age of 10, they think it was the most hilarious thing, because you're right, he does go back to those mischievous roots and getting into, trouble and doing things that he shouldn't be and whatever. So it's like, okay, I'll grit my teeth and bear the animation, because when I did watch it, I did find myself laughing like a lot while watching that. But folks, we have had way too much talking, which we do because we love this stuff. And one of the objectives of doing this EFAP is to remind folks of just the innovation that Disney has done in the past, and that gold standard of storytelling that we've come to love, and we really miss, of late. So here we go. Your girl's gonna have to EFAP this up. I had a watch party with my members, so that's where we went back a little bit. But here we go. But before we do start, if I do remember correctly, Ube Iwerks, whose daughter Leslie Iwerks narrates the Imagineering story on Disney Plus. Watch that if you have not watched that. It is amazing. But her father, I believe, was not truly credited for this. Wasn't there some kind of thing where he was or he wasn't?
I think he wasn't necessarily attributed to help creating Mickey Mouse, the actual character himself. I believe his creditation were included in various works. You can see right here a Walt Disney comic by iWorks. There was creditation to the I think he directed a few of these early shorts and so forth, and I think that was stated clearly. But what iWorks unfortunately wasn't credited for a lot of years was the development of the character that is Mickey Mouse. I believe that is what she was referring to.
Yes, I am.
Could be wrong, Culture.
And no, just an added note. The series that Lorena is talking about is one of the very few reasons why I would encourage anybody to at least take the trial for Disney Plus, because that is an amazing series of that they put together. You know, it's kind of like how everything came together. There's a few of those things, History of Imagineering, all that is worth your subscription, at least for a trial period, in my opinion. So
Imagineering story is absolutely incredible.
Fabulous.
Best work on there.
Absolutely fabulous. Okay, well, here we go. You gotta love that music. You just get happy just hearing that tune.
Oh, absolutely.
And for folks who didn't catch what we said earlier, while Steamboat Willie is in the public domain, because we're doing this for YouTube, we have to kind of skirt around a couple of things for copyright. So
right.
I mean, and this was 1928. This is what stuns me, of the detail with the drawings, and not only that, but the actions involved with the drawings. You look at this and you don't even think that it's hand drawn, because all of the mechanics just line up perfectly.
Right, and like the puffs of smoke coming out of the smokestacks right there are synchronized with the music itself. You got the paddle wheel on the side, and they're animating water, and just there's a lot of intricate technique right here.
And this is probably interesting now that Disney now uses this intro to all of their films. And I mean, I loved it when they did this and they included it.
Yeah, it's a really nice homage to the earliest time, and it's interesting they would go with that, because it's like, when you think about Mickey, what are his most iconic moments? To have this be one of the most iconic moments is pretty awesome, and that legacy lives on. I guess that's why they used this version of Mickey Mouse during Fantasmic at the end there, when he's on the stern paddle wheeler or stern wheeler, or whatever you want to reference, depending on which version of Fantasmic that you're actually seeing. It's the steamboat Mickey that you see at the end there in the finale, right before it goes into Fantasia again. But it's pretty cool that they reference this so prolifically in all their projects.
Yeah, I like the fact that they've chromiumed it up a little bit and made it more brass in its features. So yeah, like I said, the little nuances and details that they've done in representations of this visually is nice. It's a nice homage, as you said. So I love
that. I do too. And when he turns the wheel at the same time, it just, I love that.
So good.
It's just perfect.
The wheel, by the way, you can see the same wheel in the queue for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at Disneyland. It's featured there. Obviously, it's a representation of it. But what they're going for is, oh look, it's like a museum, of all these Mickey artifacts, and you see the actual wheel that was used. That's kind of a cool reference right there for sure.
I wish we had that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
At Walt Disney World, because it's just they took. I have my issues with the Great Movie Ride. I really think that they lost
Yeah.
an opportunity to rotate in a couple of older films that people didn't know about and more modern films to bring it
Right.
in. I really thought that they should have done that instead. But now it's like Grauman's Chinese Theater hollowed out and some posters with with the Disney characters on it, kind of like what you see in PhilharMagic, but
Right.
it's not the same as like seeing those like a quote unquote like a museum, like
Well,
seeing
that
Paddle
show building is so massive. You would think that, they could even take scenes down. And they had actually, there was certain points they had to refurbish scenes in that while guests were riding through.
Right.
They could have just taken scenes down and refreshed, but instead, and again, there's no shade on the attraction. It's fine. It just could have had its own show building and been a little bit more well placed, I'll say.
Yeah, and you would have gained the benefit of actually adding capacity, whereas Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway is actually a reduction of capacity when you think about all of the ins and outs of that. So it was unfortunate to lose such an iconic attraction. Honestly, the thesis attraction for that park, the Great Movie Ride, really a shame. It's cool that it was at least replaced with something as iconic as Mickey Mouse. A lot of people have arguments about whether or not they should have used the Paul Rudd films. But that being said, though, at least you have the iconic character represented in some way, at least at Walt Disney World. At Disneyland, like I was saying, there's like a museum, so you get to see like above the wheel that I was talking about, the plane from Plane Crazy is there as well. And so you have this dresser with the famous ghost from some of those early films, and he like comes alive and he blows, and the propeller spins up there occasionally. So it's like really kind of intricate, really cool.
You're going to make the Floridians angry there.
They're already angry.
They
to be fair to Florida crowd. Yep.
But imagine fleshing out the imagination, or excuse me, the oh my gosh, animation courtyard in Florida with this ride. I mean, there was room to do it. I mean, there's so much wasted space and now landlocked space, and we talked about this in a video you can find on that park place just a couple days ago. We did it live initially, talking about the fact that they just locked in the footprint at the Studios park, and they just in the dumbest way because there was other stuff to do. Anyway, we're far away from what we normally do. We do this all
that's what we do. That's what we do. This is what happens when you get DISNerds talking.
Yeah, exactly right.
Now, here's something that I didn't see last time, and I'm going to roll it back a little bit. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get this. I literally just noticed it. Okay, right there.
Wow.
You notice the musical notes, and it's not just one note. I literally just recognized this. All of the different notes, the half notes, the quarter notes, all of those. And I wonder if those are actually the notes from what Mickey was singing, but whistling. But I'm just guessing. But just this level of detail here,
that's cool.
That is just amazing.
And again, because of the way these things were animated, and because of the innovation of the animators at Disney, you see the clouds in the background that, again, give you all that depth that you don't get in a lot of things, especially not back then. This is I think 26?
I think.
Well, no, I think it was released in... And this is something that Vash brought up a minute ago. These were not produced in the order they were released, so it's hard to remember where they go. So, but,
I gotcha.
It's amazing,
incredible.
It's just, and the physical comedy of get it together,
right? Right. Oh, that's great.
Like I said, nowadays they would call that, assault, but
Yeah.
considering what's going on now, it's funny when you think about it. It's like, oh, Mickey's, they're being mean doing that. Of course, there's Pete,
There's Pete. Well,
and Pete was a cat, right? He's a cat,
yes,
right?
it's a
Okay.
cat.
Okay.
So that's kind of why he's mean to Mickey, right? Because Mickey's a mouse, and that's kind of whole thing. But it's interesting. You talk about the meanness, right? Do you remember, Lorena, when Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway originally opened and everybody was like going crazy about animal abuse towards Pluto? Do you remember that? Because he was like, they were slamming him in the trunk and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, it was supposed to be a gag, supposed to be funny.
I totally missed out on that, but that was freaking hilarious.
Right. And it was... that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be funny, and everybody was like took it like really seriously, and then you soon realize, oh, that's why they don't do stuff like that necessarily anymore, because people get they get angry about that sort of thing nowadays.
It'll get a little too sensitive, but I will tell you this much: the kids in the audience were laughing like crazy when they saw that part happen.
Right? It's great. Yeah,
It's
Pete.
fun, and poor Mickey here with like his midsection kind of
Yeah. Just wrap that up there
and put it back in there,
Got it.
with the sound effects.
It's great stuff.
Also, with having that happen, and it just adds, it adds to it. He's like, yeah, whatever. And then he's just like, all right, whatever.
It's like, what? You're talking back to me? Like, Pete surprised himself. Wow.
Just these funny, hilarious moments where and we literally said during the watch party, did Pete just kick his own ass?
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
It was just perfect.
It's awesome. Oh man, that's so
good.
good.
Love it. He falls in the water bucket, and you see everything follows. I'm sorry, go ahead, Culture.
Oh no, I was just going to add, and you see that from the very, very earliest beginnings, Walt loved parrots.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, these are all the little things that we talked about a long time ago, but it's fascinating that you will find a lot of parrots in anything that Walt was connected to. So.
And it's really kind of interesting how that is, right? I mean, obviously the most famous example is the Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland that opens in 1963, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But the bird iconography just follows, and it's so interesting. It's a great point there, Culture.
Yeah.
Wow, that I didn't know. I just knew this was one parrot I couldn't flip and stand.
Well, yeah, and again, not to slow us down even further, but I will. They were able to, and again, this was probably done more than 5 years before the multiplane camera was even invented, because that was another of iWorks creation.
Right.
And they used a four-plane multiplane camera to create depth and parallax and everything else. They were doing that here before they had access to that technology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Talented artists.
It's just nuts. I mean, I just have it paused and I'm looking, and it's like you see just like the shading and the and the depth of where it's where it's hand drawn, where it's not like a stick. It looks like a wooden perch that that the parrot would be on.
The difference between animation now and animation then, they studied the birds so that they knew from every angle what the eye shape would be, how much of the eye would be visible. This is, despite the fact that everybody will accept that this is animated and not real, it has a level of realism that your brain doesn't have to like process the fact that this isn't something that is not natural. So we're seeing this is the biggest problem right now, not only with computer animation, but with anybody that does hand drawn now. They don't do the studies. They can't make a horse run in Wish because they haven't done the work. I mean, I think the last generation of people I know that did the work were tied to a man that they recently kicked out of Imagineering who basically built out Animal Kingdom. So, and Joe didn't deserve the treatment he got. But hey, Tony Baxter got it before him, and I mean, I can go down a list.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'll get pissed off and go on a whole tear about how I wanted to be an Imagineer, and then I started seeing what's going on, and like, okay, maybe I really don't, want to do that. But it's interesting, Culture, that point that you bring up about those artists studying the birds. One of the things that I remember John Lasseter talking about with the film Finding Nemo was when they first did water renderings. They're looking at it and it's like, no, that looks like crap. Okay, you're all going to the Great Barrier Reef. You're going to go diving. You're going to study what the water looks like, what the fish looks like. And they were getting all this research and they were changing it because they noticed that water was not static. It, responded to certain light and the way that sand moves underwater. And they actually studied all of that. And in the special features, because I have it on DVD, they show the renderings, how they went from the beginning to more information that they got to the, to the end. And it's like, that's one of the reasons you're watching that movie and you just think you're underwater the whole entire time.
Even A Bug's Life in preparation or development for that film, they take a small little camera and they kind of roll it through what was, I believe, like a grassy section in their parking lot at the time. This is long before Emeryville, obviously, but they kind of roll it through that and they kind of get from a bug's perspective what this place actually looks like in order to create those amazing vistas that you see as part of that film. John Lasseter notes like, oh, it's so translucent, the sun hits it in just a particular way and so forth, and it looks very different, almost like an alien world versus ours. That's called doing the work in order to make these things look as to lend these things more credibility and authenticity in that process right there. And you can take that animation one step above, just like with the birds in 1928. Really kind of doing your homework and realizing what this is. So to have really very talented people come after that.
You've been hot. That is probably the most insulting laugh, along with Snoopy, honestly.
yeah, exactly. Love this.
And I so empathize with Mickey. I was like, I totally get it.
Yep. It's great stuff.
It's just like, shut up. Here's what you get. And the kid, and it's funny when you watch this, the parrot's laughing and you feel how humiliated and angry Mickey is. So by the time he throws the water on the parrot, you're laughing because you're just like, I totally get that. I completely understand why he would do that.
Fantastic.
It's just fun. It's like whatever. Okay. Animal cruelty, number one.
Now we're gonna get a little chewing tobacco. This is great.
This is what I had to explain to people. I said, okay, kids, now during this particular point in time, people did, they had a lot of chewing tobacco. That was common. My great-grandmother, and my grandmother, they would use chewing tobacco and would have a coffee can so they could spit the chewing tobacco in, which was so darn gross. But it was a fact of life.
Right.
Which is why this one part here again is so funny, because he's spitting it out, and that's what people would do.
Yeah.
They would actually hit the cup. So when Pete does this again and he hits the bell, that's more hilarious.
It's great stuff. It definitely takes you back to a time and an era, right? I mean, it just very, very different now. for sure.
Extremely different, but I'm glad they kept us. It's like it's time. It's a time in a bottle,
Yeah.
so to speak. And even though this was, years and years and years ago, that comedic element is still there. Even though we know it's quote unquote outdated, it's like who do we know that spits to yeah.
Right. It's kind of funny because I think even like until very recently, I think the one last vestige you can actually find tobacco in media at all was Major League Baseball for a while there. Do we remember this? Where players would constantly do that, and
Goal.
and then it's like we got HG cameras, and it's like, wait a minute, should we necessarily still be doing this? And that's when they did away with the practice. But I mean, it's just kind of crazy. It's just not something we normally associate with society nowadays.
Yeah. Like my nephew, he was just like, "Oh, how would you do that?" I said, "Imagine being on a school bus and spitting against the wind. That's pretty much what would happen."
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I get it.
It's great.
It's just hilarious. And of course, continuity actually,
Right.
wipes the tobacco off, and that's what a lot of animators, I mean, yeah, I'll use Wish, follow through. There's action and then there's reaction, and we're looking for that. And when you don't have that, people are just like, what the heck happened?
Right.
And podunk landing, I guess that would be insulting now. something
So.
podunk.
That's a good catch right there. Yeah, probably wouldn't do that today. I'll put it that way. Love this.
Nah.
Multiple different animals here.
Yeah, I mean, if this was at a time where, it wasn't out of the ordinary, where you had animals out, like out for sale or whatever, it was, something that was done, that even today in rural parts of Florida, it's not uncommon. You drive up to Walmart, somebody's got their chickens, or, a horse in the parking lot, or go across the street and there's, cattle ranch right there. I mean, it's something people are used to seeing. So you got the skinny cow. It's booze and it gets skinnier.
I love this too. The portion coming up here, how they get the actual cow on is one of my favorites.
Like, how are we gonna do that? Like, back it up. Okay.
Nice.
Crank it down. Put it on of course, it's like if you're watching this, kids are watching, it's like, how's that gonna work?
Right. Because I mean, I don't know, a mediocre creator, let's say, would just like tighten the belt, right? And he tries to do that, but Disney took the approach of making it a comedic gag again here, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, like, what? No, that's not gonna work too well.
Right. It's just hilarious.
But you're right about extending the gag. Not glossing over it, but showing, we're saying in our mind, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. When actually shows us, yeah, it does, and then gets sprayed in the face
with milk. Oh man.
Well, I mean, and again, I mean, it's funny because the attention to detail. I mean, having the FOB tag there is when you're shipping something is about who is assigned responsibility during the process of the shipping, and so it's very interesting to me that's something that's a detail that was included. And then you have all the hijinks that's happening with the cow trying to load it up. I'm like, don't damage the cow.
So funny.
It just gets sprayed in the eye with the milk cutter. That's just, funny considering the udder is bigger than the rest of the cow is. And he tries. He's like, okay, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work.
Right,
Try,
right.
try it again.
And he's mad.
Shoot.
He's frustrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's just pissed. Like, I got a schedule here, and this darn thing doesn't work. Okay, all right, I got an idea. Now, is he torturing the cow because he force fed it so it would get fat?
In that one moment, yeah. Look, this is utilizing the animation medium to your advantage, right? Doesn't work in real life, but it works in the Mickey world.
And even funnier, just seeing that hay goes into the cow's mouth and pushes it, and then you see the cow just like get fatter. Just that whole sequence of events is just, that in itself is hilarious. The skinny cow, now it's fat.
Shows off how clever Mickey is too.
Yes, very much so.
Well, it's funny because he's a problem solver, right?
Right.
We don't really teach that anymore, but here it is in cartoon form in 1928.
Yep.
Great stuff.
And that's a very good point, Culture, because with cartoons like for example, like with Tom and Jerry, even with Bugs Bunny and even with the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote, not that it worked a whole lot of the times, but you always had a problem. There was always some kind of problem to solve there, whether it was who's going to put the bell on the cat, to don't step on the rake, to to those types of things. There were like all of these, well, how do I solve this this particular problem?
Right.
Very good point. I love this. Okay, number one, I'm a fan of this incarnation of Minnie mainly because of that hat and the shoes.
Yep. The heels, man. She's channeling her inner. Who's that character from Jurassic World? You know what I'm talking about. Running away from.
Is it Claire?
Yeah, running away from the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the heels right there.
Yes.
That's what we're channeling right here, and it's great.
And the sound effects too. It's just perfect.
So funny.
I love it. It's like, I can't say how many times I've been running and I've had to like run in heels and trying to like catch a train or catch the bus or through the airport or whatever. So that's like a very relatable moment for adults, and for kids just funny. Just like, he's not gonna catch the boat. He's not gonna catch the boat at all. And she's pissed.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute.
Oh my gosh. And this is, I don't know if we're going to call this toxic masculinity or what, but as a kid, I just thought this was the funniest thing. She's like running, trying to catch up. And again, the problem solving. Mickey's like, okay, how am I going to do this? I can't stop the boat, right? Can't stop the boat. I get an idea. Let's try this instead. The fact that the hook is animated. Okay.
It's amazing. Man, it's a good gag. That's great. It definitely on the line there. It's not toxic masculinity in my opinion. It's masculine ingenuity. How about that?
There you go.
Yes.
I like that.
I say it very tongue in cheek on this.
Of course.
Yes. When I say it, it's hilarious. But you're right. That's like that ingenuity. Mickey's like, I got a problem to solve. I can't stop the boat. Okay. I just got this cow on the boat. Finally, I can't really stop, but let me try to figure out how I can do this. Poor Minnie Mouse.
Just delicately, up the skirt there, and wow, that's really something.
Pulling her up by the bloomers.
That's so funny.
Oh, which reminds me, I don't know if you guys saw this one. I don't know if it was a TikTok or on Twitter, but at Disney, I think it was Disneyland Paris. And Minnie, you know how the characters jump around to music and everything, and Minnie is jumping around, jumping around, jumping around, then loses her bloomers. And he just picks up and leaves. It was so funny. I thought of every time I saw that, I thought about this. It's like, don't feel bad. I mean, that's what happened to you in Steamboat Willie, too, you know?
Oh, there you go. You see there? That's perfect. That's so funny.
Which is hilarious. Like, here you
So
go. We got you.
she brings the guitar. I don't know if you guys know or not, but is the insinuation that she's the musician or that she's bringing the guitar for Mickey to play? Do we know where they're going right there? Because I don't know if they're intimating that she's the musician herself, because I know Mickey Mouse Runaway Railway, he plays a very similar guitar at the end of that attraction.
Yeah,
So I don't
he
know.
does. Yeah,
It's
That's
a
a
little detail.
yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
that's
that's
a good
brilliant.
guess. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, actually, I didn't even know about that. I hadn't even thought about it because my mind was focused on the goat, and I don't like goats. Uh, I have a
Yeah.
history of not liking goats, thanks to my great uncle's farm, and the goats would chase me around and try to chew my clothes, and they'd eat paper and all that type of stuff. But I thought this was genius because you had the goat eats the sheet music.
And and
Oh,
the
little
music.
modesty there. It's like, okay, we'll put your dress back down.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they find out the goat ate the sheet music with the
That's really
notes
something.
scattered down on the ground too.
The
It's just
details are
another
amazing, truly.
absolutely. So you look at that and you know, okay, something happened here,
Right.
and sheet music is gone. This is what the heck's gonna happen, this time. And eats okay, there's the explanation.
It's the
Because
guitar, right?
goats eat goats are kinda dumb. And goats are the ultimate hustlers. Every time I go to Gatorland, and I do streams at Gatorland, and I go to the petting zoo area, if you have food, the goats will come over to you, call all their friends over, and will eat anything. They will eat paper. They will eat the maps. They tell you, be careful with the map. The goats will eat the maps. That's just what they do. They will eat everything.
They're just hungry.
And the
And I think,
notes.
well, I think this is one of the first times that trope in animation where goats eat everything is actually utilized, right? So, this is made iconic, and so we've seen a lot of Tex Avery stuff and a lot of Looney Tunes stuff, you know, include characters like goats that would just eat everything inside. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it. Again, it's that fun physical humor that like kids can relate to, with like the goats eat everything that's there. And again, the details with the goats eating everything and he's digesting what's going on and it's bouncing around his body and the notes start going off as it's going through his digestive tract.
It's amazing stuff right here. To turn him into like a wind up jukebox right here is awesome.
This this was one of the funniest gags
Yeah.
ever. I remember this part. He's like, just crank up. I know this is animal cruelty yet again, but it's freaking G.
It's amazing. It's so good. Just fantastic details.
And the music that comes out, and I'm pretty sure that these are the actual notes to Turkey in the Straw.
Hmm.
It's too detailed. And
Yeah.
you see you know, the notes coming out.
Great stuff.
This is,
Amazing.
I'm sorry. This is one of my favorite parts. I would just watch. Well, the second favorite, first one, of course, Minnie getting picked up by her bloomers. But all of the instruments. There's the duck hanging
Right.
out. There's a duck. We got the wash tub. You know, ain't no hole in the wash tub. Remember that from Emmett Otter's Chuck Berry.
Right.
This is one of those. Well, first we go with the trash. First we got the trash can first.
Yeah.
Trash can, and and the pot, because having musical instruments at that point in history wasn't something that everyone had access to. So
Right.
you
These
kind
are
of
the days before also, like personal media as well, right? So,
yes.
you're on a ship, it's kind of tradition to do a sea shanty or something, and it's kind of in line with that kind of mentality and thinking. And so to hear live music was really a treat. So this was pretty phenomenal here.
It's like the one man band troupe.
Right.
So to speak. He's got, the mallet on his tail. Just too funny. I mean, if you notice, just like the tones of each note lines up with the size of the pots,
The pot, yeah.
the pants that are on the wall. And honestly, I didn't notice that before. Because as a kid watching this, all you're doing is just like, how can I do that at home?
Yeah, exactly, right? No, it's absolutely fantastic. And I like how they're utilizing something that is a particular attribute that's only Mickey can kind of do, versus kind of Walt Disney's creation before Oswald. Maybe he wasn't able to do something like that, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And there's the washboard, kids. Before washing machines, you had a washboard to like do your laundry on. So a lot of you know bands and musical groups, you had someone who literally played the washboard. That's one of the things. This poor cat. I want to tell that cat to run. I really do.
Oh man. Oh, this is one of my favorite gags of the whole thing right here, because it's just so outlandish now. So it's definitely on the animal cruelty side of it, but it's just, I don't know, it's so it speaks to the character of Mickey Mouse and how fun things used to be, kind of thing.
Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't see this coming. I mean, he didn't do anything to the cat.
Playing him like a musical instrument. It's amazing.
And he doesn't care. It's just like, yeah, okay, I'm enjoying this song, so we're gonna get the cat, and then we swing the cat around. We swing the cat around too. It's just,
it's so crazy. And then just throws him off screen.
and there he goes. And we get the duck. Now the bass duck, actually, it's like it gets crazier and crazier and crazier.
Right. That's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
It's like playing him like a bagpipe almost. It's a very interesting way to depict that.
Every time I see this, and yeah, you guys keep pointing out animal cruelty, but every time I see this, I'm entertained. Because it's too ridiculous to be something that you would think was real. I mean, it's an animation. It's done for effect or a gag, as Vash keeps saying. And it's the ingenuity required to do this and to think of this. Think about the creativity that went into just thinking about, how do we make this work? What can we do? What can we use to make this happen? So I love it. I think it's great.
Awesome.
I do too. I mean, it would just crack me up. Just like, okay, you're going to use the cat, and how many how many tropes do we have of people where they step on the cat and the cat's like, yeah, it's like one of the funniest, jokes to do. It's like you're stepping on the cat and then it's okay, we're gonna use the cat and then we're gonna swing the cat around. There's also a trope, well, the figure of speech that says you can't swing a dead cat around without hitting X, Y, and Z. So I'm wondering if that's if it's from that. But yeah, culture is right. Like just the ingenuity. Who would think to use, the duck, play the duck like a bagpipe, and then the exaggerated animation at certain points of the
Right.
song.
Right. Still animating the tongue there as well.
Yeah. And just how we get to see, more of a perspective of the duck. It's not just from the side anymore. It's like it's the exaggerated features, so it just makes it even funnier how absurd it is. And just when you thought it couldn't get any
Oh man. Goes for the a lot of these sound effects are musical instruments or whatever they could possibly find to recreate these things, because recording equipment hadn't been invented at the size needed to record in the field and these things live, so they had to resort to musical instruments and things. Is this a piccolo being used right here to depict the squeals?
I think so.
Because it's very
It
high.
has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause it's really-
and consider, I mean, this is a combination of musicians and Foley artists all crammed into a tiny little space.
Right.
Oh,
Incredible.
like the piano keys. I'm sorry.
It's really something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but culture, it's with you saying that just reminds me of and I forget exactly which Disney special I saw, that when the orchestra was playing the music and you saw the animation and they had the Foley stage right there for the sound effects at the same time. It's like it's like it's seamless. Just when you thought this couldn't get any more ridiculous. He just takes it off. There's one that's like hanging and he kicks it off.
It's amazing. Oh my goodness gracious. Here we
Oh,
go.
yeah, he's like, look, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. I have to play this tune.
You can see the pigs, they're all happy.
Oh yeah, they think it's funny. They're all bouncing around in unison. And just the expressions on the individual piglets' faces.
Yeah.
Just noticing that they're not all the same cookie cutter. They're slightly
true.
different. Not only just different, but how they react to watching.
Yeah, they're all having fun. That's what it's all about. Maybe the lead pig right there not having fun, but everybody else is having fun. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, they're like, we got our tails pulled first. Now it's your turn to enjoy the the parrot. Oh, go ahead, Culture.
no, I love this. It's just so fun and creative. I don't know.
Great stuff.
It's just yeah, it's you just keep laughing, and just when you think it can't get any funnier, it just gets more. It's the absurdity, just the absurdity of it. Like, okay, let's open the cow's mouth and let's play it like a
It's amazing. It's just-
How
It's
many
great stuff.
cartoon gags have we seen this same thing
right.
happen?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean it's incredible the variety of instrumentation here, and like Oh, what would a pig sound like if you did it in this way, and what note would actually be produced, and how can we distinguish that from other things that we're doing here? It's a lot of creativity, ingenuity. We can see the scale though for the cow has changed just a little bit in order to make this guy work.
Yeah,
Continuity.
yeah, and it's just funnier to see it just close up, and just the details that show the effect of Mickey actually striking each individual
Right.
tooth there.
It's amazing. It's great stuff.
It's just too funny. Just the expertise. Just
So good.
big finish.
That's right. Shaving haircut to be.
So good.
Is Mickey taking like a bow there a little bit too?
Yeah.
I never noticed
Yes.
that before. Wow.
I didn't either.
That's great.
I think I was too busy laughing after the finish was shaving a haircut.
That's amazing.
His facial expression changed too, right? He's very humble. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great facial expression. That's a
Thank you. Thank you.
that's great.
Okay.
I love that.
I think something else that I've kind of noticed about this, it's so relatable. It's not super highbrow humor. It's something that, your general population
Right.
can relate to. And I think that's another reason why this short is so hilarious.
That's a great point, by the way. That's what Walt Disney, I think, understood more than anybody. He knew his audience, right? And he knew when he was on target and when he was off, right? And maybe, he did apologize for Fantasia during a famous speech or whatever, saying, "Oh, I gotta go back to what I know," or whatever. Even though it was ambitious ahead of its time, all that, he understood very intimately what his audience wanted, demanded of him, and what they could most relate to. For sure, it's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Oh shoot. I didn't expect him to be standing there.
Right. It's like off the job, I see.
Yeah, which makes it even funnier. Like, shoot, I'm busted.
Oh, that's great.
And rightfully so. It's like, okay, woo, yeah, I'm in trouble.
Yep.
Just how his body inflates when he does that. Like, okay, all right, I'm gonna nope. And this is such a common punishment. I think I saw it mostly in I want to say in like Popeye cartoons, but it seemed like whenever you were on a ship, this was your punishment to
AP duty.
Yeah. Yep. Peel darn potatoes, and man, I hated peeling potatoes.
Terrible.
Thankless job. We're like, dude, you kind of cut that a little.
I know. I always say that to myself. I'm like, Mickey, we only have so much food on board. What are you doing? That's not super efficient. Come on now.
Is he flipping him off?
I would say so.
Well, I like to say he's got this because of his facial expression, but
it was a salute. It was
he's got the salute. Right. Okay, there you go.
He's like, yeah, okay, and just the exaggeration. I'm not peeling it. Shoot, I'm just
gonna
whatever, so I can get done.
I would have gotten a lot of trouble if I peeled a potato like that.
Yeah.
Is it peeling at that point? It's like mincing it. It's crazy.
Like mutilating it. I got yelled at as a kid. My grandma was like, "You can't peel a potato like that. Just the skin. You can't. That's money down the drain. That's like wasted." And and all of that. I'm like, oh, for a darn potato, because it's just so monotonous having to
Right.
cut, potato with a knife. And then the day I figured out to use the carrot peeler to
Right.
peel potatoes, that was a great day. I was so flipping proud of myself.
Absolutely.
Because man, cutting potatoes,
It's tough.
nah, it's tough, and especially during this period of time in American history,
Right.
during the Depression,
Yeah. That's a good point.
and yeah, and the scarcity of food. So that also lends to the dude. Is that what you went and did? And of course, here's his friend, the parrot. Like, I get 3 Caballeros vibes when I look at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Birds everywhere.
Parrots
Yeah.
again.
That look like. I need that as a ringtone.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's so
Thanks, Tim.
insulting. I love it.
I love Mickey's expression. They're like, what? What? Like, he's obviously pissed.
I can't stand you.
Love it.
But
He's so
again, we
angry.
can empathize, with him about that, because he's just like, was having fun, and shoot, now I'm stuck doing this. And
It's a
darn
punishment that's
parrot.
bad enough too, so rubbing it in. Yeah.
Just the most humiliating punishment. And he's like, all right, forget that. He threw the whole half a potato, right? He just said, screw that here, bam. And the bird's calling for help, right?
I love how he listens for it too. Like, okay, is it gone? Is it in the water? Good. That's fantastic. And he's happy about it.
Yes.
Great stuff.
Oh man, that I flipping love that. And yes, we know there's tobacco depictions that are in it. My goodness.
So funny.
But yeah, this one, it is, oh my gosh, it is so funny. I love this one. And it just reminds you of just how genius Walt Disney was at providing entertainment that the masses could relate to, that so many people could relate to. And even, as a kid, when I didn't quite understand everything, I just knew the parts that were funny, that were absurd, that I would just laugh at. And then as I grew up, kind of seeing, other pop culture icons like The Simpsons basically go and try to do the same darn thing.
That's amazing.
With Itchy and Scratchy, and it's just genius, and it really is a testament to Walt Disney's legacy. Just how this little cartoon is such a big part of our popular culture.
Yeah. Put Disney on the map for sure. After the I don't know the thievery of his iconic character Oswald by the hands of what would become Universal at that time. And it's like, oh, what am I gonna do? Obviously, down the dumps, all of that. Creates the iconic character Mickey, first going to be named Mortimer until the wife steps in and says,
Yeah, so
let's go with something
no.
else. Right? That character gets developed by Iworks and so forth, and just creates this icon that launches Disney into the stratosphere until the time of Snow White, which is kind of interesting talking about that too, talking about public domain and so forth. Disney would make its bones later on taking works that had been in the public domain and reimagining them to make them distinctly Disney products and so forth. So it's just it's all things come full circle, I suppose.
Well, culture. What do now looking back at this cartoon, I was kind of EFAP'd through it with what's going on with Steamboat. We'll say the Steamboat Willie version being released into the public domain. What do you see possibly happening?
Well, I mean, outside of the obvious, which we already know, we were seeing a video game be released, a horror film, which is, we knew that was coming. In fact, since it's the easiest thing to do, it made the most amount of sense. But um, I think we're going to see legal battles, not necessarily about Steamboat Willie specifically. We're going to see
Mhm.
battles about the mouse because the arguments are going to be made in various ways that Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie means that Mickey Mouse in every single iteration is now available to everybody, no matter how many times they redrew him or redrew the model or anything else, which is also going to open up a whole bunch of wounds on some other cases because this case law is far from being decided. And
Mhm.
because Disney suppressed copyright for so very long, they've just kicked this can down the road to a point where it's going to rip off a lot of other people's band-aids. And that's my expectation, and again, we can talk about Mickey Mouse all day long, but it's more than just that. It's all these other things that fell into the public domain at the same time, and that's going to
Right.
happen every single year going forward. So whether it be Peter Pan and Wendy, whether it be Eeyore and Tigger and all the other things that come along after Pooh,
Mhm.
we're going to start seeing this happen with regularity, and people finally have access to some things that maybe were too judiciously guarded, in
Yeah.
my estimation. Because art's not supposed to be locked up forever, at least not this kind of stuff. You're not supposed to be able
Mhm.
to lock up a story. And Disney actually just repurposed somebody else's story and locked it up. And that's perfectly fine, and you definitely can protect your rendition of it. But at a certain
Mhm.
point, that falls into history, and
Yeah.
it very well should. And so, you know, create more things in the future, and you won't have to worry about what's in the past.
Yeah. To your point, culture. Yeah. The Copyright Term Extension Act, aka the Sonny Bono Act, or aka even the Mickey Mouse Protection Act, made effective October 27, 1998. It follows the 1976 law, which Disney also helped lobby to create, which extended the public domain threshold to include death of the author plus 50 years. The 1988 Act put that off to 70 years, and that's kind of where we get 2024, this falling into public domain. But it's interesting if you look at the actual act itself. It placed works only published in 1923 and onward this kind of extended protection. 1923 obviously being the birth of the Disney studio, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But I think a lot of, like you said, culture, I think a lot of studios creating all kinds of product, like the early monster Universal films, for example, or the Looney Tunes characters, and all these different intellectual properties that have been safeguarded for so long, are looking at the situation with kind of like bated breath, going, how is Disney actually going to handle this? And from Disney's perspective, I think ambiguity is part of the strategy here going forward, because a lot of people don't necessarily know what can they take, what can't they take. Obviously, Mickey Mouse, the name and so forth, and some certain iconography is still trademarked, which that'll be trademarked into perpetuity. So I think they enjoy the ambiguity being out there, and I think they are kind of waiting to, let's say, pounce on anybody who kind of gets too close to the sun, so to
Mhm.
speak, regarding this. So that's kind of an interesting strategy that we'll see carried out. They had to kind of change tact, right? Because I don't think there was public support to have these copyright protections extended any longer. So what are they going to do?
Mhm.
They're going to do trademark. They're going to do the more litigious route. So we'll see how this story develops. But this is just kicked off, folks. This is not over for sure.
Yeah, I know I personally, besides, the bad Lord, the bad take stuff that's is gonna be coming. I'm really looking forward to seeing how creative people will be
Right.
with Steamboat Willie, especially those who have such a love for Disney and the character. I'm really excited to see what they will come up with. And going to be interesting seeing exactly how Disney tries to enforce their trademarks with this, because Disney does not have the benefit, I would say, of popular public sentiment
Right.
right now.
Yeah. That's probably why, Lorena, they didn't go, let's say, lobby for this to be extended even further, because they probably understand that's kind of wearing out there. Also,
Yeah.
too, you know, and I hate to bring this up, but I have to.
Oh, go ahead. That's what we're here for.
Okay. Well, we know that there's kind of an activist contingent within the company, right? And doing research for this story in particular, I found a lot of like very let's say narrative driven outlets, let's say mainstream media outlets, right, that were suggesting that Mickey, this iteration of him might be linked to some early minstrel performances of the 1920s 1930s vaudeville acts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have an activist contingent within the company that looks through everything through a progressive lens, let's say, to allow this to fall into the public domain, so to speak, and kind of make this public and gear the company away from that version of Mickey that has been retroactively connected to that point in history, might not be the worst outcome, let's say. So it's one of those. I think there's a lot of things playing out here that put us in this situation today.
That's a very, 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 very good point. And to kind of add on to that, that's kind of how I feel about Song of the South, which is why, if you're one of my channel members, we actually sat down and watched that movie. And it's interesting how that has been locked away because it was deemed, quote unquote, problematic.
Right.
But when people actually see that film, it's just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really don't get it. And with that being locked away, like we were talking about, the certain activist contingents within the Walt Disney Company can control the narrative.
Right. And it's powerful.
And
That perception is powerful, right? And when you lock something
yes,
away like that, people instantly think, oh, it must be terrible. And they go out and discover these works and they go, well, that wasn't all that bad. So why do people necessarily believe this? And it's just the power of perception.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. So thankfully, we have the internet. Thankfully, there is an archived copy of that film on archive.org to go and see it for yourself. But I'm glad these things are falling into the public domain so the public can be informed and make their own decisions, which is what art used to do. Art wouldn't tell you what to think. The only thing that art asked you for is to just appreciate it and come to your own conclusions. So yeah.
Maybe when Song of the South falls into the public domain in 12 years, I think, is that right? Maybe that narrative can
It's pretty
begin to
close,
change a
I
little
think.
bit.
What is it like? Is it 60 years? Oh, your music culture.
Oh, sorry. It was released
That's
in 1946. Sorry, I was just trying to.
1946. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So it's maybe a little longer than I was thinking, but still, I mean, if once that kind of falls into public domain and maybe there's a renaissance of all these things in terms of or a rediscovery process, maybe some of those narratives can be corrected a little bit. But until then, the power of perception.
Yeah.
Yep.
And look, it's a real shame because that film had an Academy Award winning song in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, Zippity Doo Dah, which was the theme for probably the most famous and popular attraction at any of the Disney parks, has been silenced.
Mm-hmm. And had an Oscar-winning actress in it. as well. Hattie
Yeah.
McDaniel, who was in Gone with the Wind. But yeah, thankfully, with this going into the public domain, people can go back, rediscover these older cartoons that put Disney on the map and what made these stories just so magical. And like I said, even today, my little nieces and nephews, they will sit and they will watch this one repeatedly because they find it funny, they find it entertaining, and it just has that Disney magic that just speaks to the kid in all of us. So thank both of you so much for doing this. I've been wanting to do this, wanted to nerd out with you guys with these Disney shorts. I love them. This is like my favorite one. My second one being the band concert. The third being the Orphans Picnic. If you guys remember.
Wow.
Remember,
Okay.
yeah, remember that one. Badass kids.
I liked all the silly symphonies, and I liked the Alice videos and such, or I guess films. But I was always amazed at what they were able to do with the limited technology that they had. I mean, and
Yes.
again, Song of the South is just a broader version of that, being able to put people and animations together. It's just insane.
That blew my mind as a kid. I'm like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that Disney himself championed in the old Alice in Wonderland cartoons. If you go way back, but that's a whole other story.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this EFAP. I can't wait for the next one that we do, if you gentlemen are so inclined. So before we wrap this up, kind of go around, Vash, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
Best place to find me is going to be at that park place doing videos along such amazing talent as yourselves. I know a lot of people love and appreciate your contribution to the daily countdown, daily roundup. I'm not sure what we're calling it now, but they love your contributions. So thank you so much, guys, for making that possible and to really putting that channel on the map is amazing. You can find me there with Jonas, and you can also find me doing long form conversations just like this one about theme parks all across the nation via Theme Park Universe with our theme park wizard there. So you can definitely go ahead and subscribe to both those channels. It'd be awesome. You can also find me at Vash Sky on Twitter.
All right, folks, and I'll have those details in the description box of the video. Culture, please let the folks know where they can find you.
It's about as easy as you can figure. I mean, it's just Culture Casino everywhere, whether it be YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, Getter, Twitter, any place. Pretty soon, we'll have an Instagram book-based thing. I don't know, and then you can find me there. Probably just like advertising the merchandise that I sell. But anyway, check my channel out. I would really appreciate it, and subscribe because I too talk about Dismal Disney and some positive stuff too.
Absolutely. Subscribe to these gentlemen, folks. Also subscribe to that park place as well. All the news that should be fun. Of course, you can find me on X, Instagram, and of course, YouTube, various videos and live streams, spicy pop culture and sci-fi analysis. And of course, I always keep it real when it comes to theme parks. So make sure you hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you next time. Bye.